Chapter 3. The Light in the Forest. Ella Morris's house was located on the outskirts of Ash Creek, the last house before the forest. Old, lopsided, as if they had forgotten to tear it down many years ago. When Daniel pulled up to the gates, the sun was already starting to dip behind the trees. The sky was turning gray. The forest behind the house looked almost black. He knocked. No one answered. He knocked again. A few seconds later, the door slowly opened. An elderly woman stood on the threshold. Thin, gray-haired, too pale. She looked at him as if she had been expecting his arrival. Miss Morris? Yes. My name is Daniel Harper. The woman nodded. I know. That answer made him uneasy. Inside, the house turned out to be surprisingly dark. The curtains were drawn even during the day. Old photographs hung on the walls. Some were so faded that the faces on them were impossible to make out. Ella put the kettle on, and only then asked, "Are you here because of Greyford?" Daniel nodded. The woman sighed, as if she was tired of hearing that name. People always come because of Greyford. And what do you tell them? The truth. And what truth exactly? Ella was silent for a long time. Then she looked out the window, at the forest. That the town didn't disappear. The kettle continued to hiss quietly in the kitchen, but Daniel was no longer paying attention to it. You claim that you saw it? Yes. When? In 2015. 17 years after the disappearance? Yes. And you are sure? The woman looked at him as if she found the question stupid. I have lived next to this forest my whole life. I know every tree, every road, every hill. That is exactly why I realized I was seeing something that shouldn't be there. Outside the window, the wind began to pick up. The branches of old pines scraped against the roof. Ella fell silent, as if gathering her strength. It happened at night. I woke up around 3 o'clock. I don't know why. I just opened my eyes and saw a light. Daniel took out a notepad. Ella didn't even notice. It was as if she was back in that night again. At first, I thought it was a fire. The light was coming from the forest, very far away, but too bright for a campfire. I went out onto the porch, and I saw a street. Daniel lifted his head. A street? Yes, right between the trees. A street with streetlights, with windows of houses, with light in the windows. The room went quiet. Only the wind could be heard. Are you saying you saw Greyford? No, the woman shook her head. At first, I thought it was Greyford, but then I saw something strange. What exactly? Ella swallowed. For the first time during the whole conversation, fear appeared in her voice. Real. Alive. People. They were standing on the streets. Just standing. Not moving. Not talking. not looking at each other. They were just standing, as if waiting for something. A chill ran down Daniel's spine. How many of them were there? Hundreds. The wind slammed against the window. Ella flinched. I watched for about a minute. Then one of the figures turned its head, and the woman looked him right in the eyes. It looked at me. Silence. From that distance. Yes, that's impossible. I know. Ella lowered her gaze. Her hands were trembling slightly. And then, all the lights went out. At once. Simultaneously. As if someone switched off the town. Fell silent. And what happened then? Nothing. What do you mean, nothing? When I looked there again, there was only forest. Daniel slowly closed his notepad. He wanted to say that it was impossible, that it was a dream, an illusion, an optical trick, anything. But before he could open his mouth, Ella said, "You've already started having the dreams too, haven't you?" Something tightened in Daniel's chest. What dreams? The woman grew pale. So not yet. She looked toward the forest, as if expecting to see something between the trees, and quietly added, "Then you still have time."
Let's look at 6 B2 words from this part of the story. First, threshold. It means the entrance or doorway. Ella stood on the threshold of her house. Second, faded. It means lost color or became less clear over time. The photographs were faded and hard to see. Third, tired of. This means bored or annoyed because something keeps happening. She was tired of hearing about Greyford. Fourth, scraped. It means rubbed roughly against a surface. The pine branches scraped against the roof. Fifth, flinched. It means made a sudden movement because of fear or surprise. Ella flinched when the wind hit the window. And sixth, simultaneously. It means at the same time. All the lights went out simultaneously. Now, let's continue with the next chapter. Chapter 4. The First Symptom. The drive back to the city passed as if in a fog. Daniel didn't remember leaving Ella Morris's house, didn't remember turning on the radio, didn't remember pulling up to his house. The old woman's words echoed in his head. So not yet. Then you still have time. Time for what? To stop or to go insane? He entered the apartment without taking off his jacket. It was already past midnight. The rain had finally stopped. Daniel sat down at the desk, opened the satellite maps again, zoomed in on the exact square of forest behind which Ella Morris lived. A green sea of trees. No bald spots. No roads. He sat in front of the monitor for another hour. His eyes were gluing shut. Exhaustion was taking its toll. Daniel lay down on the couch in the living room, not even bothering to make the bed. He just closed his eyes. And almost immediately, he was there. The cold. That was the first thing he felt. A piercing, unnatural cold. Daniel opened his eyes. He was no longer in his living room. He was standing on asphalt. Fine gravel crunched beneath his soles. walls. It smelled of ozone and old dust. A thick white fog surrounded him. It swirled right at his feet. Ahead, piercing through the veil, was a yellow light. The light of street lamps. Daniel took a step. The sound of his footsteps seemed deafeningly loud, as if he were walking through a massive, empty hangar rather than a street. The fog cleared slightly, and Daniel saw houses, 2-story, with neat lawns, with cars parked in the driveways. The design of the cars, square headlights, angular shapes, the late 90s. He turned his head. A sign hung at the corner of the street. Oak Street. It was one of the streets of Greyford. He had seen it on the old town plans. Daniel walked forward. His heart pounded so hard his ribs ached. Lights were on in the windows of the houses. Warm, yellow, cozy. But inside, there was neither movement nor shadows. Suddenly, he stopped. Ahead, at the intersection, there was someone. Daniel squinted. The fog distorted the silhouettes, but he definitely saw people. First 1, then 3, then a whole dozen. They were standing right on the roadway. Men, women, children. They all stood with their backs to him, absolutely motionless, like mannequins in the window of a closed store. No one talked. No one moved. No one breathed. Daniel wanted to shout, to ask who they were, but his voice was gone. A spasm squeezed his throat. One of the figures, a man in a gray coat, slowly, very slowly, started to turn his head. Daniel heard a sound, a wet crunch, as if the cervical vertebrae were turning inside a frozen body. The man had almost turned. Daniel saw the edge of his pale cheek, a hollow, black void instead of an eye. "Wake up!" Daniel bolted upright on the couch. His chest was heaving. He gasped for air like a drowning man. The apartment. Darkness. Silence. He was home. It was just a dream. The dream Harold and Ella had warned him about. Daniel wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, stood up, turned on the light in the living room, went to the kitchen to pour some water, and stopped halfway. His gaze fell upon the floor, upon the rug. A trail of footprints stretched from the front door to the couch. Dirty, wet. He looked at his boots, which he had forgotten to take off. They were covered in fresh, red clay and pine needles. Daniel backed away. He hadn't gone anywhere since yesterday evening. There was no red clay in the city. It was only in the forest.